Welcome to the Best Sports Betting Podcast, where we'll talk about reviews, previews, tips and all things betting related. Brought to you by bestsportsbetting.co.za. Now, on to our hosts.
How's it, punters? Welcome back to the Best Sports Betting Podcast. Got a interesting episode today, but before we get started, I do want to remind you guys out there that we have a Lacquer giveaway going on the channel. It's a video where we are giving away $3,000 in celebration of hitting 3,000 subs. All you have to do is find the video and give it a watch. What you need to do is make a prediction on what the roulette wheel is what the final number is gonna be from the roulette wheel spin. And if you're the lucky punter who gets the right number, you'll get yourself 3,000 Rand in cash. So go check that out. And let's jump back into the podcast. With me as always is Simon. Simon and I had a game of golf last week. Fortunately, none of us were betting because I think it would have been a bit of a disaster. But so Simon, you were following the TPC Sawgrass before we jump into the Premier League. Do you want to quickly tell us what happened there? Who picked up the win?
Yeah, it was. I always look forward to the Players' Championship. Actually, we didn't preview this last week because it's not a major, so to speak, but it is quite a big tournament. We had Justin Thomas winning that. Lee Westwood was the leader for the first three rounds and about half of the final round too. But unfortunately, he didn't pull through. Actually, I like Lee Westwood quite a bit. But yeah, Justin Thomas was the winner, and it was a great tournament. It's a really, really wonderful course in Florida. Really scenic, got some great holes. You were just talking about that before the podcast, Rob, about the island hole, the par 3, which is really cool. But yeah, good tournaments, and look forward to the event next year again.
Yeah, and hopefully we can also hit up another game of golf where we can maybe improve on our own scores. But let's jump into some Premier League. We had a pretty, I don't want to say a boring weekend, a pretty predictable weekend of Premier League action. The only kind of big talking point, in my opinion, is Mr. Eric Lamela making a fool of himself against Arsenal, pretty much costing Spurs a point, I think. So we'll start off with talking about that one. Arsenal end up winning 2-1. The edge was what was it, roughing, or what did they say it was, tackling or tripping? Just being an absolute fool. He's the one who scored the first goal for Spurs.
Yes.
And then he ended up getting sent off, and that turned the tide. I feel Arsenal were on top anyway, but that was just the straw that kind of broke the camel's back.
Yeah, well, it really wasn't a great derby for the simple fact that Spurs didn't really turn up. I mean, obviously they scored the very early goal, and but it was all one-way traffic really from there. I mean, it ended up being 13 shots to 6 at goal for Arsenal's
some
favour.
really shitty shots coming in from Arsenal, though. I mean, some questionable decisions as from Lacazette with some really speculative shots, I must say.
There were, yeah, absolutely. Look, I'm not saying Arsenal had a fantastic game either, but it was a little disappointing because of the fact that Spurs really weren't great. I didn't sort of tipped this in our podcast last week, but I did fancy Spurs over Arsenal, and I know you fancied both teams to score, which did come in. But yeah, overall, not a great match. I mean, even though there were 3 goals, it wasn't exactly the most entertaining North London derby I've ever seen.
Yeah, and I was happy with that both teams to score, and I think the overs was also something that I fancied, which kind of snuck in there. But it was an okay game, not the worst of the weekend. But let's move on to United beating West Ham 1-0. Not really much to talk about there. I think Leeds drawing 0-0 with Chelsea is a bit of a surprise.
Yes. Yeah, I think a lot of people were actually tipping up Chelsea this week, and I couldn't disagree with that. At 7-10. I think they look really good under Thomas Tuchel. They look very, very well drilled. It kind of actually reminds me a little bit of Mourinho's Chelsea going back 5 or 6 years. They look like a really solid team. And look, regardless of that result, I actually, if I can get a nice price on Chelsea to win the title next season, and I feel it'll probably be a fairly big price, seeing that City are probably always going to be strong favourites. I'll definitely take a speculative punt on them because I actually really like the look of this Chelsea side under Tuchel, and I think there's good things ahead for them.
All right, and then we had City with a double game week, and no surprises there. I really fancied them to give the Saints a bit of a hammering in the last episode. I said it was the best team at home against the worst team away, and that
Yeah.
kind of I was right and wrong because City ended up scoring 5, but they did concede 2.
Yeah.
So I mean, I fancied the handicap there. The handicap would have come in quite easily, but I'm surprised that they let in 2 goals at home.
Absolutely, I think that's the second time that's happened this whole season. If I'm not mistaken,
I think it's the third that they've. I think it's the third in a row they've conceded at home.
Yeah, 2 goals. I mean, yeah.
Oh, right. Yes.
I'm trying to recall now, but they did concede 2 goals a few weeks back in the Premier League. I mean, and I can't remember offhand who it was to, but yeah, but they certainly are a little bit looser at the back than they were earlier this season. But it's understandable with. I mean, look, with the title done and dusted, basically, you expect that in a game which is going to be, when you're kind of running all over your opponents, you're gonna leave some space at the back. So, but yeah, always surprising when you see City concede any goals, to be completely honest.
And then after that they had a comfortable 3-0 win away to Fulham. So no surprises there. I don't think you're going to be picking up I don't think anyone picked up too many good odds on any of those matches. I think there's all heavy favourites. And then Liverpool's beating Wolves, somewhat surprising there. I fancied Wolves for possibly an upset there, maybe a draw. But Liverpool look like they're trying to fight their way out of their poor form.
Yeah, well, they looked surprisingly good in the Champions League, I must say. I thought they actually looked
different teams.
a little bit like their old selves, yeah, against Leipzig. So they certainly carried that momentum forward against Wolves. So yeah, there's some glimmers of hope there, I think, for Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah, so I think there's Liverpool going to be a team to look at again. They're not doing too well on the table. Champions League's up for grabs. I think they're going to need to start putting some results together. It's a team that I'm going to probably be looking at backing once they found a little bit of form, and they are starting to find that form again. But we'll have to see what happens. Let's jump over to the Six Nations, where we had an absolute cracker between England and France. We talked about it last week. I think I said the handicap was 3.5, very, very close, and it was a very close game in the end. I said the last couple of games had also been decided by 3 points, and this one was in the end decided by 3 points with England.
Yeah.
With England picking up the win, and it was an absolute cracking finish to the game as well.
It was. I must say, I was really looking forward to this 4th round of the Six Nations, and it delivered in every aspect. It really was fantastic. I had a feeling England was gonna turn up for this one. I did tip them at about 4-5 for the win there. And they looked a completely different team on Saturday. I mean, Farrell was really good. I mean, his kicking's always fantastic, but his all-round game was excellent, as much as I despise him.
Yeah.
But I mean, when France though scored a try in the very first minutes, I can imagine the Barmy Army would have made a huge collective sigh there. But it did turn out pretty good after that. They just looked so much more confident with the ball, spreading France very thin in possession, and I mean also defending courageously. I mean they really did well to keep France out on numerous occasions. So yeah, it was a good win overall, and just a great match to watch. And same for Ireland Scotland, also a good match to watch.
3 points, I think was the at the end.
Yeah, and same odds there. It's also a fairly tight match, but they got it done. But looking at the overall tournament now, I mean Wales almost look a shoo-in. They're 8 points ahead, which means they'll have to lose by at least 7 points to France, and then Ireland would also have to beat England for there to be even a small chance of Wales not winning. So it does look their title to lose, but I suppose stranger things have happened.
Yeah, and there's a couple of fixtures coming up this weekend. We'll be chatting about those a little later. And then Champions League, Simon, I didn't catch too much of the Champions League action. I just, there's a bit too much football on at the moment for me to keep track of, especially with the late night matches. But we had Liverpool looking decent, and a couple. We've got some interesting fixtures that we're going to be talking about a bit later. But what was your take from the last round?
Yeah, well, as I mentioned earlier, I mean Liverpool actually looked more comfortable than I've seen them in months, honestly, against Leipzig. I tipped Leipzig on the draw no bet, which I was definitely on the wrong side of that one, so no luck for me there. But looking at the other matches, I mean, Barca had a three goal deficit to overcome, and they still couldn't beat PSG, even though they were favourites there. So
1-1.
and then Juventus beat Porto 3-2 in extra time, but that wasn't enough to progress. So Porto will go through there, and then Dortmund drew 2-2 with Sevilla, which meant their away win in the first leg got them through. So we have in the semi-finals, we've got Dortmund, Porto, PSG, and Liverpool in the final four. So I think we can probably both agree that Liverpool and Porto are kind of surprise teams to make it to the final four, all things considered.
Yeah, and we're gonna have to see what happens. I think it's gonna be interesting. I really enjoy the crowds in the Champions League, and we haven't had that. Hopefully next season we can get some spectators back in the stadium for a bit more excitement. It's really one of the things that I have been missing. But let's jump over to some of the T20. You wanted to chat about some cricket before it slips my mind.
Yeah, there's a 5-match T20 series going on right now between India and England. They've obviously just wrapped up the Test match series, and it's actually tied 1 apiece. India won convincingly on Sunday by 7 wickets. And the bookies have India at 13-20 to win the series, obviously with 3 more remaining, which looks about right to me. But today at 3:30 South African time, India the third match will start, and India actually at 1.72 with Sporting Bet, which I actually think is a little bit generous. This match obviously is pivotal because it'll put either side 1 match from kind of clinching the series. So I do think it's a very important match to win. And I just think I would rather back the better side on paper here at 1.72. I was expecting 1.65 there really. So I think there's a little bit of value in India there. But yeah, it should be a good series. It started off really well, and I think it'll be continued to be a good series to the end. So hopefully it can go to a final match next week.
Yeah, like the Australia-New Zealand series that we discussed last week.
Yeah.
And all right, so I think we're gonna jump into some previews now. I thought I would start off with some of the Champions League because that's tonight and tomorrow. We've got City taking on Mönchengladbach. We've got Madrid, Atalanta, Bayern, Lazio, and Chelsea taking on Atleti. City, it's really not not an inspiring week of Champions League for me. Most of these kind of look like foregone conclusions in my opinion, but I'd love to know what your thoughts are. Let me just bring up some of the odds here on Sunbet.
Look, you're right. It doesn't look amazing on paper, but there is actually I did find a bet which I quite like, and also in a game that is maybe a little bit unexpected, which is actually Man City against Mönchengladbach. And they obviously City are carrying a 2-0 away win kind of in their back pocket, and I just don't think Man City are going to run all over them. And for the simple reason is that they don't have to. So there's a long shot bet that I quite like, and it was actually at slightly bigger odds than I expected. And I like Man City to win by exactly 1 goal at odds of 3-1. Which I think is actually a decent shout.
I don't. Obviously, I'm going to disagree with that one. But go ahead, Simon. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, with the handicap, look at that. You can always tell, where the bookies are lining up goals wise by looking at the Asian handicap, and obviously this is set at about 1.75. So obviously they're more expecting City to win by 2 than 1 goal. But I just think that the fact that they really don't need to run away with this, they won't. And I think that 3-1 is actually quite generous on City to win by a goal. So that's one bet I like. But looking at the rest of the card, I mean, do you have any thoughts on Real Madrid against Atalanta?
Well, I've got some thoughts on the City match, and I like the odds you're getting on your City to win by 1. But Mönchengladbach are in horrible form. I mean, they haven't been playing well. I think they've lost their last 5 in a row. Let's just bring this up. Yeah, they've lost the last 5, and they've lost on the road. They've lost at home. So I really can't look past City. City don't have any matches coming up. They're going on a bit of a break for I think about 2 weeks after this. Mm-hmm. I think they're going to give this their all. I think they're going to absolutely smash Mönchengladbach, and I think something maybe like a 3-0 win. I think I might go with a correct score of 3-0 for this one. Bit crazy. I Yeah, I just don't see where Gladbach are going to find a way in. And if City do win, which I completely expect them to, I think it's going to be by a couple of goals.
Cool. Well, that's great.
So we can have a side bet on that one.
There we go. It's always nice to have a bit of disagreements, and we can always give each other trouble next week. So yeah. And Wednesday we have Bayern hosting Lazio and Chelsea hosting Atletico. I think you just mentioned that, but both the home teams obviously carry advantages into the second leg. And I think both should have enough to qualify. But if I had to take a bet out of those two matches, I would actually pick the draw in Chelsea Atletico.
Yes, I like that.
Which you can get at about 23-10. I think that Chelsea. I mean, look, Chelsea just need to basically keep them out. They've got that goal advantage, so I think they're going to be playing quite cautiously. I think they can avoid the loss here, and I don't think that they're going to go out and try and win this necessarily. So I like 23-10 on the draw there, but I don't really have an opinion on the Bayern Lazio match.
Yeah, it also screams unders the Chelsea game, but I mean, I'm just looking at the odds now.
Yes.
1.6 on under 2.5 is just way too low for me. I was hoping something more around 1.8, but then again, these are two teams that aren't exactly prolific in front of goal.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I'm with you on this one. I like the draw. Maybe 0-0, or I might even have a little stab if I can. I fancy this could be also a sneaky 1-0 to Atletico. You're getting 8.5. I might have a little stab on that just out of interest, but I don't think I'm going to be watching this game. I don't think it's going to be terribly exciting to watch either. Hopefully I'm wrong, but let's move over to the Bayern Lazio. I've got no thoughts on this game. Same with the Real Madrid Atalanta. I'm really not too interested in either of those at the moment.
Yeah. No, neither am I. I mean, I'm happy to just chat quickly about the Six Nations coming up, Rob.
Let's go to Six Nations, and then we'll jump over to the very short set of Premier League fixtures. So Six Nations coming up. We've got Scotland taking on Italy, Ireland taking on England, France versus Wales. I don't have too many. I don't have any bets for these. You've been pretty good with your Six Nations so far, so I'm going to hand this over to you.
Yeah, I think that France obviously have to beat Wales by at least 7 points to have even the smallest chance of winning the Six Nations, and I like them to cover that handicap. The handicap's set at 7.5, but you're getting quite a nice price. So instead of getting the 9-10, you're getting 19-20 with Sunbet. So I like them. I like France minus the 7.5 at 19-20. I think that they'll get the job done with some gas in the tank against Wales. I think that Ireland have a very good chance of beating England, obviously despite how buoyant England will probably be after their win over France. But I would have liked a slightly bigger price. So I think that 13-10 looks about right on Ireland. And I would have liked to back them at about 15-10. But I think obviously as underdogs, I think that Ireland obviously do at home especially have a fairly good chance of beating England there. But I would side more with the France to cover the handicap against Wales.
Yeah, I mean it is the business end of the competition. As you mentioned earlier, it's almost decided. Yeah. A lot needs to happen. Results need to go, and often those things don't happen. So I don't like to speculate too much on this team. And I know it's a valid point, but this team needs to win by X. That teams to win by Y. And I've been burnt by that so many times in the past. I've just learned to just completely stay away. Especially also in football and soccer where you they only need to win 2-0 and then they just end up drawing 0-0. It's too much pressure on them, that sort of thing. So I'm going to be staying away. I will be watching, I think, the Ireland-England game. France-Wales, I'll see if I can catch that one. It's going to be at 10 o'clock though, a little bit late on Saturday.
It is quite late, you're right.
But let's jump over to some Premier League, and we don't have too many matches to talk about. So I think this is my only bet, and it's an incredibly boring bet for the week. But let's start with no, I'm staying away from Arsenal. Can you believe it? Although that's not a bad bet. I think Arsenal are on the up, but we've got Spurs taking on Saints. I think that's going to be a pretty straightforward win for Spurs there. Once again, Saints one of the worst teams on the road. Spurs are going to be desperate to make up for that loss that they had at Arsenal, and I quite fancy them here. I don't think you're going to get to a very good price in them. I'm just looking for the actual price. I can't find it now. But then we have Brighton taking on Newcastle, where I actually fancy a draw. I think that's my only Premier League bet for the week so far is going to be the draw at 3.55 over at Sunbet. I mean, Newcastle should beat Brighton, but 6.5 on Newcastle. What do you think?
Well, I mean, last week they managed to avoid defeat as quite big underdogs. I mean, they didn't get the win there, but I honestly think that if you looked, and there's websites where you can find out this information, but you probably find that Newcastle, despite their position on the log, are probably one of the most profitable teams, in the sense that if you bet, a rand or 10 rand or 100 rand or whatever on them every week, you would be more profitable than many other teams, just because they're often underrated and they always just seem to not necessarily get the full result, but steal a point when they shouldn't. So yeah, I can't disagree with that.
But also just looking at the table, we've got Brighton sitting 16, we've got Newcastle 17. This is essentially a relegation scrap again for Newcastle. It's their second one. The last one was West Brom, and I can't believe you're getting 6.5 on Newcastle for a team that's sitting just slightly above them in the table. Newcastle aren't in terrible form. No. Look, they never really are in any sort of form, to be honest. But here we go. In the last 5 games, they've had 3 draws and 2 losses. So I really fancy Newcastle to pick up some kind of a result here. And I really don't like backing them, but I think unders and Newcastle double chance here should be paying pretty well. 2.3 on the double chance. Yeah. So I think I'll be having a stab at that.
Brighton started the season off really well, actually, but they really have sort of faded into non-existence recently. Yeah, I can't. And as you say, 2 teams which look. I mean, Brighton is no doubt the slightly better team. Yes. But those odds are rather inflated.
Yeah, so I fancy the tune there, and seeing that I'm betting on them, it's probably going to be a 3-0 win for Brighton or something like that. Then we have West Ham versus Arsenal. West Ham having a great season so far. I'm surprised to see that the bookies have them at pretty close. I mean, West Ham 2.85, Arsenal 2.43. I think Arsenal are being... that price I don't think is right. I don't think I can take Arsenal at that price away at West Ham. I think the bookies are being a little bit generous to Arsenal there.
Yeah, it's funny. It's a funny one because I totally agree with you. I think they should be dead even, to be honest. I think both those teams should be about 2.7. But I think that a lot of Gunners fans will be quite encouraged by what they saw on the weekend against Spurs, even though it wasn't the most fantastic. And I think that's why this price is where it is. I think that the bookmakers know they're going to take Arsenal money, and so they're setting them slightly shorter because they know they're going to move in that direction anyway. But that, for whatever reason, has still not kind of put me off the Arsenal draw no bet at 4-5 here. I just have a feeling that I can't see them losing this match, and I just think keeping them on side with the draw at 4-5 is the way to go. Even as I said, I honestly don't see value in this bet, but for some reason I just get the feeling that they won't lose this. And obviously pick up from kind of where they left off on the derby on the weekend.
Yeah, and I'm just having a quick look over on Sunbet, and they've got player specials for giving assists, which is a market that I've not actually seen before. You can actually bet on guys to have an assist, which is basically if for those of you who don't understand it, if let's say Lacazette passes the ball to Aubameyang and he scores, that would be an assist for Lacazette. And I'm just looking at this, and there's actually quite a bit of value here, especially with some of these Arsenal frontmen who aren't always the greediest. I mean, I can get Lacazette for an assist, yes or no. So there's both markets at 7.0, which is pretty high, considering it doesn't take all that much. So that might be something I'm gonna have a look at later and see if there's much value. But I like some of the markets that they've got over at
That's
Sunbet.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never seen that before.
And then our last one that I think is of interest is Villa versus Spurs. Once again, I think Spurs are being kind of overvalued here at 2.3 away from home. I know Aston Villa aren't great; they're pretty bad, but they're not that far away from Spurs. Spurs is no doubt the better team. Aston Villa having a decent season, very difficult. I just think that should be a little closer to even there, especially after they lost to Arsenal.
Yeah, no, I can't disagree with that. I think Villa certainly haven't had their worst season.
Yeah, so you were saying Villa haven't had their worst season, and look, I just think Spurs are slightly overrated in that position. And they're going to be missing Lamela, of course. So I don't know. These games just don't excite me this weekend, to be honest.
No, I think look, the West Ham Arsenal game is one of the five which looks kind of tasty, but it really isn't the best week of EPL this week.
Yeah, and I think that's where we're going to call it a wrap. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention before we close off this episode?
No, that's it, Rob, and I'm looking forward to the weekend of sport.
Yeah, let's hope it's a good, profitable one. I'm not going to be having too many bets, as I said. I think my biggest fancy is going to be on that Newcastle game, which is not really saying much. I think I'll be having a bet on some of the rugby. But yeah, guys, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to go into the competition that I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, and we'll catch you in the next one. Have a good one, guys. Cheers.